Are large language models rotting the brains of the world's software developers? Gen Z is not too happy with AI at the moment. Governments in Seoul and Beijing are trying to force AI to pay societal dues. Is the global AI machine finally hitting a human wall? All this on this week's Tech Column by Netpublik. We're tracking a massive wave of human friction this week. For the past 2 years, the narrative has been all about how fast the AI models are growing, how much money is being poured into infrastructure, and how automation is inevitable.
But this week, the humans are fighting back, from developers feeling the scare to labor unions threatening to freeze chip production to policymakers imposing social taxes on AI profits. This friction is getting very real. Let's get into the news bites.
Right, so news bite number 1. Is AI making us dumb? Code rot and Gen Z pushback. Our first bite targets a quite existential crisis in software engineering. A massive investigation report from 404 Media revealed that software developers are sounding the alarm, claiming that AI code generation is rotting their brains. Engineers from mid-sized companies all the way to FAANG giants are reporting that relying on LLMs is actively de-skilling them. They are losing the ability to maintain a mental model of their own massive code bases.
It's creating a rat's nest of hidden technical debt. But what's even more cynical is the rise of token maxing. Reports from HrdWyr and internal Amazon leaks reveal that some employees are using AI unnecessarily just to pump up their internal usage scores. Google admitted in April that staggering 75% of its new code is AI generated, while Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella previously boasted up to 30%. But engineers on the ground saying untangling this flaw. Machine-generated nest is becoming a nightmare.
And it's not just the workforce, it's the next generation as well. At a recent University of Central Florida's graduation, speaker Gloria Caulfield was aggressively booed by Gen Z graduates for calling AI the next industrial revolution. These students aren't buying the hype. They're facing an uncertain job market and they want real human mentorship, not an algorithmic regurgitation. So, what is this happening? There's a lot of pushback now on AI. And this
You
is
seem very happy, man. You seem very happy.
Look, I use AI. I like AI. It's a great tool. I've said this many times before. It's a great tool. But to basically bet the whole farm on it, that's kind of, well, frankly, insane. Because, like, this is a tool that still makes mistakes. It's still not 100% correct. That still grabs data from God knows where, even though you say, just use this data points here. Like, come on.
Yeah, they're launching not a perfect products, yeah. That's why, but I don't know. We're still doing it. We get excited with it. We embrace the hype. I embrace the hype, at least. And then we see some people's, yeah, like what you said, hit the walls.
But here's the thing. I mean, forcing employees to use AI and everybody knows that if you're training, it's like you're training your replacement. They know it. They get it. And without proper metrics, like, okay, the one who has the most usage of AI, you're safe. You don't get laid off. That's
yeah. It's like
gaming the system.
It's like how long you can run. You can get the most budget from how long you can run. So what? It's whatever you can do the AIs, whatever anything, then you will get the budget, right?
The proper use of AI, as we have said, is that you retain your people, you train your people, they use the AI, they 3x, 4x their ability to finish their tasks faster, more efficient, and they can check it and they can control it. But I don't know. I mean, I think this mass hallucination, pun intended, by some corporations to just replace people with AI is just, yeah, again, insane.
Or is it just a sign that, one, people don't like the AI? The second one, people cannot work with AI.
As those Gen Zers in the University of Central Florida story, they're facing an uncertain job market. AI is taking away the jobs for the lower end, the introductory level, the entry level. So there may not be any positions available for them yet if things go on as they are. And I mean, come on. I mean, like in order to get middle managers and senior managers, you need to start somewhere. You lose this rung of the ladder, how can people climb up to the next one? And then soon you'll have like no one in the middle, and then no one in the senior level. So yeah, this is not a very good macroeconomic solution.
And the tech bro said that Gen Z is AI native. This is quite opposite from what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Gen Zers, they know it, they don't like it. There's a lot more studies about why are you so happy. There's a lot of studies that basically shows that they're not happy. Some of them are actually going back to the analog days. They're going to flip phones, and they're going to tape decks. I mean, like, forget CDs. They're going back to the analog days. So yeah, it's a trend. So we'll have to see where it goes.
And for the developers, I thought it's a huge progress when Anthropic Google said that most of these software are made by AI, but suddenly we found that the code fraud that the media talk about.
Yep, it is the technical debt when you build a program, a small program, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and some of them like they replicate themselves, like that can, like, having like a certain procedure be repeated in many places when you can just use this one procedure, but the other guys who write the program afterwards, like years later, they don't see it. That gets bigger and more complicated, and it brings the whole program down slowly. So it makes it slower. So yeah, if the AI is good at it, perfect at it, then great. Unfortunately, it's not. Not now, not yet, but still, it's still a good tool.
Yeah, I remember that back on those days, while coding is fun, so they say, the developers, the programmers said that coding is fun, but with the AI, they can make a lot of programs, a lot of software, but the fun is not there anymore. Yeah, just like writing. The AI can help us to do the writing. The AI can do drawing, making some image, editing the video, but they cut down the fun parts.
The other thing that we should remember, programming, I don't like the word coding, programming, if you do it right, you can build it, but the most important thing is the debugging. There will always be mistakes somewhere, and finding it can be a pain in the butt. AI is supposed to help with that.
Yeah, and they're not idiots who's talking about the brain rot or the code rot.
Yeah. So and the programmers who knows how to build a program can spot it if the AI is right or wrong. If the AI is wrong and you follow them blindly, they can take you all over the briar's patch, and suddenly you're lost because the original problem is still there, but you create new problems now because the AI didn't do it properly. So yeah, until they do it right, until it's perfect, I wouldn't trust 100% on it. So yeah.
But again, it's going to be the knowledge loss.
Yes.
Because if we really rely on to the AI, it will get easy to build up something. What I say, the fun is gone, the lost knowledge is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, completely.
Next, Byte 2, the AI social tax and the Samsung labor strike. This is my favorite. South Korea is trying a radical new economic approach. A top South Korean official, senior presidential secretary for policy, Kim Yong-byum, said in a social media post, has proposed a dedicated AI profit social tax. Essentially, the argument is that since tech giants like Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix are seeing the profit skyrocket due to global demand for high bandwidth memory chips, a portion of those excess profits should be taxed to fund social safety nets for workers displaced by automation.
This follows China's legal rulings earlier this month, stating that employers cannot just fire workers because AI is cheaper. But the human element in South Korea is hitting a flashpoint right now. Samsung's labor talks have also completely collapsed over a bonus formula dispute And a massive 18-day worker walkout is scheduled to begin on May 21st, running through June 7th. While the US failed to tax the rich, South Korea is doing something different. We'll see what happens next.
This is a massive looming race, even as chip stock optimism jumps following the Ramsey summit. An 80-day strike at Samsung could completely disrupt the global supply chain for AI memory hardware. You can build the best models in the world, but in the factory floor, walks out, the whole machine grinds.
Okay, so this is interesting. What South Korea is doing could be something that other governments would like to see them do. The problem is that this is only for South Korea. How does a country that does not make chips, that does not get a lot of excess profits, that all of the revenue from using AI is shipped overseas, how does that get taxed? And like, how do you control that? So it's like search engines and websites and whatnot that's posted overseas, and the money goes overseas. How does governments tax that? So some countries are going to benefit this more than others, especially because they are the manufacturing of chips, or they have the factories as well located there. So yeah, it's an interesting idea, but not everyone's going to win on this one.
This is very interesting because the gap is getting wider and wider. So maybe it's this time the government to be more wise and put the social tax to the what's called filthy rich.
So this is very interesting. What South Korea is doing, taxing the rich, is a rather popular populist slogan. But I don't think everybody is going to benefit from this, because so far, if other countries try to copy this, the only ones who they can tax would be the manufacturers, and they're not in all the countries. They're only in some, like Indonesia for one. We don't have a lot of memory manufacturers or AI startups or companies. So how do you tax that? So something like this, where you manufacture or when you're producing the chips, that's something that's easy to track. But if you're offering a service, and if you're buying a service from overseas and you're using it here, for example, how do you tax that? So that gets very complicated.
Yeah, it's going to be very tough, yeah, because this is also something new. Because when somebody getting richer, is it really that government should tax them? Because everybody has the right to be richer. I mean, a tax is good if it can be for the social net program, but we just make sure that the tax policy is already right. So I think to make it special tax is gonna be tough, man.
I see. Yeah. Well, I mean, in all countries, roads, healthcare, well, in some countries, roads, healthcare, services, all of that, it depends on tax. So as long as people pay their equal share, if you ask me, this is not a socialist argument. This is a capitalist argument, because having all these services for people, daycare, all that kind of stuff, is good for the entire community that will then be productive to make new products, innovative products, and all that. That is where I see a lot of countries can do better in that one. But in this case, it's still like we're still in a bubble. This whole thing can still go, just not collapse, but just slowly deflate, and we're maybe seeing a slow motion car crash in front of our eyes.
So do you feel the air bubble is already deflating, or it's still blowing up?
Let's see what the IPO documentations for Anthropic and OpenAI comes out, and see the market reaction.
I'm sure it will be good, man. It will be great.
Remember WeWork?
Yes.
Right. So let's see what happens.
But again, let's back to the taxes, because I think some countries already implementing like the hierarchy of the taxes. So when you get more money, you will get a bigger taxes. But some countries very open. If you get more money, get bigger money, they're open to have like just be my citizens and you will get a lesser tax. there's going to be another challenge, man.
Yep, there will be, definitely.
Yep.
So on to Byte 3. China targets 7% silicon wafers self-sufficiently by year end. While the West fights over software licenses, Beijing is moving aggressively on the physical supply chain. Reports from Nikkei and KR Asia reveal that China has set a strict national target to achieve 70% self-sufficiency in advanced domestic silicon wafers by the end of 2026.
This is the raw material that everything else sits on, while factories like TSMC are projecting a massive $56 billion in capital expenditure for 2026. To expand chip fabrication facilities, China is throwing massive state subsidies at domestic wafer production to fully insulate its AI supply chain from Western sanctions. They aren't just trying to build the chips, they are building the ground the chips are grown up.
Yep. And competition is good. The tariff wars didn't really help isolate China. Now they're focusing on the on silicon chips. Competition is good. And I think so far that we're just waiting for those chips, AI memory, GPUs to come out of China at a very, very discounted price. NVIDIA and AMD should really look out for this because it's not just a two-horse race anymore. I think there's like four chip manufacturers in China that is going for the role that NVIDIA and AMD have right now.
It's not everybody's game, yeah? It's not but the US only that dominate the market. It's also China is trying to figure out how to gain some leverage for doing this. While this podcast is recorded during the Trump visit to China, we don't know yet what's going to happen after that. But I'm really sure that China will hold their ground in order to make their chips production bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I think the president has brought in a lot of VIPs. Apple, Tim Cook, Tesla, Elon Musk, Boeing as well. I think it's also there. They're looking,
including Jensen Huang.
NVIDIA. Yeah. Yes, my bad. They're hoping to open up the Chinese market. Good luck with that because the American market for BYD is still closed, and BYD cars are very, very good. So if BYD does come in, which is it's already in China, it's already in Canada, it's already in Mexico, it's already in Europe and Australia, and there's been a lot of rave reviews about it. Is the American auto manufacturers ready for that kind of competition? The Europeans are struggling, but hopefully they'll get there. So we'll see.
Look what happened to the Detroit when Japan's automotive comes to the US. You know the rest.
Yeah.
The history might be repeat when China comes to America with their own brand.
But it could be worse because GM had an electric car. It was a good electric car. It was very, very good, and they decided to demolish it. Who Killed the Electric Car is a very good documentary. I suggest you see it, and then you'll be so mad at what America had, and then they lost on purpose. So we'll have to go from there.
It's going to be interesting what's the follow-up from the Trump and Xi Jinping meeting. So I believe Jensen Huang trying to enter the China once again.
But Huawei is building its chips and processors. So yeah, I wouldn't put money on it.
Is there going to be a win-win solution? Because it seems like very important because Trump visited to China.
Look at what Polymarket says and place your bets.
Let's move to the Byte 4. India ramps up in the AI hardware race. And India isn't sitting on the sidelines either. Bengaluru-based fabless chip startup HrdWyr just closed a massive $13 million Series A funding round led by Ideaspring Capital alongside Singularity MC and Persistent Systems.
What makes HrdWyr fascinating is their business model. Instead of building massive data center GPUs to compete with NVIDIA, they're building AI-native system-on-a-chip products focused on edge computing. They've already collaborated with some consumer audio giants to launch the Invus 1011 chip for intelligent battery management in wireless earbuds. with packaging and assembly handled domestically by Tata Electronics. India is proving it can run the full path from intellectual property to chip design and retail rollout. So the plot thickens. Not just China anymore, it's India. And then after India, who's next? Who can start to build these things? Because the market is big enough.
Yes.
There's a lot of open source AI models you can use, but where are you going to host them? Where are you going to run them? You need the servers, you need the processors, the chips. If it could be done locally, like what India is doing, you could, and the Indian market is very big.
Yep.
It would, and like when they banned TikTok in China, the Indian locally made product boomed, and it went nuts. People loved it. So it's a very big market, a very good opportunity. These guys are thinking very, very long term.
Maybe for HrdWyr, India is now enough. But we don't know. Maybe another 3 weeks, another 3 months, another 6 months, another years. If this product's really good and maybe cheaper, it will launch to other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, the AI market is heating up, and this is before the bubble deflates.
And then what happens if, imagine, China collaborates with India? It can happen as well.
It can, despite some regional conflicts, which they still have. But you never know.
But we never know, right? If we're talking about tech and maybe about progress in the world, we never know.
Okay.
This is the final Byte. Byte 5 open source under attack, the Bambulab cloud lockdown. Moving over to consumer tech and hardware. The open source community is up in arms with 3D printer manufacturer Bambulab. A massive controversy erupted after Bambulab sent an aggressive cease and desist letter to a developer who created an unofficial cloud access modification for Orca Slicer.
The drama here is that the middleware that the 3D printer manufacturer is using is called Bambu Studio, which is actually built on open source code under the AGPL version 3 license. But Bambulab is drawing a hard line, stating that the license for the code is not a pass to a private cloud infrastructure. So, Bambulab disabled direct cloud printing for third-party software, forcing users to use a middleware app called Bambu Connect. This restricted users' ability to remotely control the printer settings like speed or temperature. Independent developer Pavel Jarzak created a fork of the open source software Orca Slicer and made a modification that bypassed Bambu Connect and restored direct cloud access, allowing power users to fully control the printers through Orca Slicer. Again, the problem is that Bambulab is saying that this illegal fork has basically sent falsified identity metadata to pretend it was an official Bambu Studio software while communicating to their cloud servers. So that is something that would be very interesting for the open source community to talk about, because in some parts, Bambulab did use open source software to create their middleware. What Pavel did was he took the original fork before Bambulab used it and then reprogrammed it so it could be used on the cloud. The problem is the cloud is a private server that belongs to Bambulab. So, but then again, the cloud is needed for the 3D printers, which people have already bought. So that is a conundrum for companies who want to use open source, because you can, as long as you, if make any changes, you have to put it back into the community so it could be built upon and built upon and built upon, so that it could continue to innovate. But on the other hand, you also want to make sure that you have some safeguards as security, because you don't want just anybody to go into your servers, kind of thing like that.
Yeah,
but
of course,
it's like I'm an open source guy. I love the whole concept of open source. I do understand where Bambulab is coming from, but this could have been resolved amicably, and there should be some operating openings, because the last thing you want to have is a case where it's the company against the consumers, and that will never end well. Adobe, for example.
Why you always put Adobe between rock and hard place here?
Because Adobe's price have gone up and up and up. Yes, they have added more features to it, but they kind of like lock you in, and that's kind of that's not very nice for me.
Yeah, I can also see this case from the Bambulab's eyes because they want to control what's entering to their cloud, right? Of course, but then I also can understand the consumer side as well, how they want to have this some easier way or maybe more better ways. Yep. So, but who I am to suggesting to the Bamboo Lab, so better get their software is better for the Orca slicer. There's an example like Orca slicer, right? So just make like that. It's an open source, right?
At the end of the day, it's about control and it's also about the community. So how do you balance that? Louis Rossman, who is a advocate for right to repair, will put his video in the description. Has a very good argument from his point of view about like what Bamboo Labs is doing wrong, but Bamboo Labs, of course, has their own point of view as well. We'll put their statement as well below so people can decide for themselves also. But again, I think that this is something where you don't like if you buy something, you don't want to have to be forced to purchase something after sales, even though you already own it. It's like you buy a car, but you can't modify the car because it's remote controlled by the factory and you're not allowed to touch anything. But it's your car.
Yeah.
And that gets my goat also as well. I bought a 3D printer. I want to do whatever I want with it. Why can't I do that? Same thing like with tractors, like John Deere in the US. People cannot fix their own tractors because it's a closed system.
Yes.
The only person who can fix it are the John Deere official technicians.
And the consumer have to pay.
Yes.
The consumer have to pay the repair cost, and it's already locked, so they cannot.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is something that could have been done.
Is it the future of the business?
Here's the thing. The 3D printing community and any other tech community are very passionate about what they do. They're very passionate about their brands. Apple, Lenovo, whatever. They're very passionate about it. You can build years of trust, but if this one thing can destroy that trust, then that's something that you have to deal with, you have to work with. Because consumers can move to other products. Brands cannot go to other consumers because like if the word is out that they don't like consumers or whatever, something like that, it's not good for consumers. Like a lot of people are using alternative for image manipulation, for video editing, all that kind of stuff. They're using alternatives now, and there's a lot more of it. With 3D printing, there's also a more open one as well. But it's something that has to be balanced. You have to balance the community and your control of corporate profits. Because like right now, a lot of people are not liking the whole AI industry because of their whole, we are making so much money, we have a lot of valuation, great. You're going to lose your job. That's not helping. That is not helping. If they were to say that, this is great AI, this is great. We're building AI, and if they just build it slowly and surely instead of rushing, FOMOing everything, and now everybody's involved. Google, Microsoft, Meta, they're all jumping into the bandwagon. Apple pulled out because they're smart. You've got to understand that the audience that you're targeting, if they don't like you, it's going to be a big problem.
So basically, consumer don't like to be locked in, right? So they choose what they want to buy. They have their products, but they don't like to be locked in order to get more features, you have to buy A, B, C, D, E.
Well, I don't think it's what Bamboo is doing. What they're saying is that their cloud infrastructure needs to be secure.
Yeah, that's another way to say that, I think.
Yep, that's true.
Just like, imagine you buy a car. This is a different approach, You buy a car, but in order to turn on the wiper, You have to pay.
I think there's a German manufacturer who says if you want to have the heated seats, you have to pay something X per month.
Exactly.
Tesla, same thing as well. But I think
You have to pay an additional feature, but only from the manufacturer.
Yep.
You cannot buy the other features from the other brands.
Yep, from third party, yep, can't do that. So it's a balance. So I would suggest you look at the Lewis Rossman video, you look at what Bambulabs have to say, and let us know. What do you think?
That's a wrap on episode 18, from the code base of Silicon Valley to the factory floors of Swan. The tech landscape is learning that you cannot automate away the human layer without paying a massive price.
The hype cycle is hitting a wall of reality. If you have the expertise to audit the machine, the future belongs to you. If you're just letting the machine code your brain, it might be time to step back.
We'll be back next week with more updates from the digital frontline. Until then, stay human.
Stay safe. Tally ho.